Alright everybody, welcome back to another Xvault gaming video. Xvault here, and today we're going to go over my review, my personable review for Oblivion Remastered, played on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright, so like I was saying, what we're going to do is get right to the video review here for Oblivion Remastered. Again, I did play this on the PlayStation 5 Pro, so I will share my experience with that. You know, any classic Bethesda bugs, any sort of other technical issues, stutters, that sort of stuff. So we'll get to that as well, but let's start with the basic thing here. Is Oblivion any better than Skyrim? Is it as good as Morrowind? Have you ever played this? All that sort of stuff. It is another Oblivion game. It is another Elder Scrolls game. I wouldn't say Oblivion, but an Elder Scrolls game, right? Along the lines of Morrowind, and then of course Oblivion, Skyrim, etc., etc., all that stuff. And of course we are waiting for the next installment for the next Elder Scrolls game. This will have to do in the meantime. At least we have somewhat of a remaster. So this game, I would say, let's start with the graphics, right? I want to start with that one first and foremost. This game borders along the lines of a remaster slash remake. As far as graphics are concerned, the graphics are very pretty. They are a very high bar above what they were with the original version, right? So that's very nice to look at. So it feels modern in that aspect. And honestly, I mean, a lot of games have a hard time even looking like this. So they did a great job with this sort of glow up. I think that works great. I didn't see any weird sort of pop-ins or anything during my playthrough on the PS5 Pro. I'm going to mention that a few times in case folks don't know or just aren't remembering what I'm playing it on, not the base PS5 model, right? So that being said, of course, like I said, no pop-ins, no weird shading effects, nothing like that. Very solid all the way through from beginning to end. The color palettes were really good, I thought, in my opinion. I know some of the grassy parts and stuff like that from way back when, they're a little more brown and muted, something that you saw during or had seen during most of the Xbox 360 or PS3 generation. You would see that sort of thing. That was the natural tone of things, of course. But in this case, that did kind of make a return in some aspects, but you know, it is what it is. So that's all I can really say in regards to the graphical quality. It did a great job. Again, teeters along that line of remaster to remake. I feel like it's more of a remake in regards to the graphics. Quite the overhaul. So a big thumbs up there for me. A big kudos to the development team and the studio that did, of course, help this. But in addition to that, let's move on over to the gameplay. I think this is the meat of stuff, right? Has it changed? Has it updated? Did they put anything else in here that might be something more modernized, right? No, they did not. They left everything to a T of how Oblivion played over a decade ago. That is still there. I wouldn't say anything's any more smooth. I do feel like the loading times, of course, are a little bit better, but again, that's not gameplay related necessarily. But this is very tried and true, right? Elder Scrolls, you have your sword, you have your shield, you have any other sort of melee weapon, you do the swing attack, the grunts, the hits, stuff like that. You block, it's taking stamina, all that good stuff. Now, in addition to that, of course, the durability system is still there, right? So if you're not used to durability, your weapons breaking, needing to repair them, you do have to do that in this game. It is a minor annoyance, but for some, they don't care. For others, you know, they don't like this sort of thing at all. I'm in the camp of I don't like this sort of thing at all, but it didn't totally hinder my experience or playthrough. It's just, you know, a matter of you having to fast travel over to town, get it repaired, or you can repair it depending on your abilities and stuff like that. The gameplay, again, is very kind of stiff movement. Again, they didn't update anything. It's very Oblivion from over a decade ago in regards to that. So you're not going to be blown away. It isn't a remake, of course. This is a remaster branded by that team and by Bethesda themselves. Again, as a remaster, not a remake. So if they did tweak anything, maybe they'd start giving it more of a reason to be more of a remake as opposed to a remaster. I know I'm going to say that a lot, but that's just what it is. In that regards, you know, you get what you get. Is it better than Skyrim's playability? No. This is, again, well before Skyrim was you know, of course, released, and they fine-tuned some things. Just like now, you can go back and play Skyrim, but since we don't have the newest Elder Scrolls available to us yet, you know, that either is going to feel still a little dated to you, or it feels as good as it's going to feel because we don't have the next Elder Scrolls, right? But yeah, it's still serviceable. It's still doable. I don't think it's a far cry, no pun intended, even though Ubisoft, right? But no pun intended. It is a far cry from what we would expect from Skyrim. So it is very dated in that aspect too, even more so. So it's more stiff, it's all that stuff there. And my playthrough, my personal playthrough, I did go through my first time ever. I've always messed around with spellcasters, full on mage, or, you know, one-handed melee and magic. I always had some sort of thing going on there, or whatever the case is. So the first time ever in any Elder Scrolls game, I did play this through as mainly a stealth archer. And yes, it is OP'd like all the rumors, and not really a rumor, but the factual reality of the situation is, if you play that type of, you know, play style right, you play that sort of class correctly, you are going to be pretty OP'd, but not to the point where I think it was game breaking. The only time I thought it was game breaking to me is when I'm going through the arena section. I could sit there after the gates and just take someone out. I wish I had the gameplay saved for that. Unfortunately, I don't have that saved to show you. But yeah, you just sit there after the gate and sit there and poke and poke and poke. 2-3 shots are usually down, not a big deal. But everywhere else, like if you're not sneaking enough, if you happen to be found out, you trip over a trap, whatever the case is, you're in a real fight. The sneaking, the ×3 damage, and so on is not going to take effect. So, you know, it is what it is. But depending on that, just play what you want. I don't think any build's super broken. Once you get OP'd enough in any category, in any type of build, I think you're going to be more than fine. I do recommend getting your sneak up there, getting your lock picking up there. Of course, the same type of glitching system is available to you. So if you know how to do that, you can do that. There are guides and videos to show you how to duplicate certain items. So if you want to do that to get a little bit of an upper hand, make it a little bit easier for you, you can, of course, do that with the gold and other items, of course. So look out for that if you are struggling, or if this is your first Elder Scrolls game, of course, do something like that if you want to. But if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, that is completely okay as well. That being said, let's get over to the story real quick here as well. The story section being what it is. I think it's a cool story. I actually prefer this story over Skyrim and Dragonborn Saga type of deal and getting all the dragon souls. I thought it was cool at first. Who doesn't like dragons? It's still a good story, right? Skyrim's is. It's legendary at this point. But I do really enjoy Oblivion's story. I actually prefer that even to this day, going back and revisiting that without spoiling any of the story. For those of you that still haven't played Oblivion or just aren't aware of the story, I think it's fairly good. Now, it's a cool, I think it's a pretty cool, I wouldn't say climactic ending, but it kind of is. So that being said, I really, really enjoy the ending, but we're going to get to that in regards to performance, by the way, at the end here. But I think that's great. We're talking about there's tons of side quests as well, so that's going to affect some of the story. You also have all the classic guild quests and side quests as well, from the Thieves Guild to the Dark Brotherhood to the Fighters Guild to the Mages Guild, and all sorts of other Easter eggs and everything else that you can find, of course. So that's great too. But I will tell you right now, for those that are used to having a ton of waypoints, sometimes the waypoints don't pick up or want you to read or do certain things. So you do actually have to go old school, guys. I know this seems kind of crazy, but go old school and actually read the quest. And even sometimes if you're not picking it up, you are going to have to search on Google, search for a video, search for Wikipedia, search for some sort of a Reddit thread, whatever the case is. Make sure the quest and whatnot is not glitched and all that sort of thing, which thankfully I didn't come across any glitched quests on my end. It just was parts that I could not remember from over a decade ago. So this was my first time diving back in since a decade. So I thought it was cool in a nostalgic sense, but the quests are ultimately, as I'm trying to get to the point here, very dated, and you do have to look into some things. And that part was a little frustrating at times and all that sort of stuff. And of course I go through, you accidentally contract a vampiric disease, you go on through a certain amount of days within the game, you are going to become a vampire. That will affect your quest and who you can talk to. If you're full-on vampire, they're not going to want anything to do with you. It doesn't matter your personality traits and your luck and how high that stuff is. It's going to be a problem. So then you got to backtrack, or at least do a side trek mission, cure the vampirism with supplies, or you can go to a certain shrine, just an FYI, and clear it up for good. You can never contract the disease again at all. But if you want to roleplay and you want to be a vampire, more power to you. Just makes it a pain in the rear end for myself, but and I'm sure countless others. But a lot of good stuff, but a lot of dated material in regards to how the quests and such work, and not in the fun way. But certain parts of the quests and stuff were fun, some are not, right? But again, a dated situation. Now, with all three of those categories out of the way, I do want to get to the other meat of this here, and we're going to talk about performance, we're going to talk about bugs and all that stuff. Now again, right out the gate, all the classic Oblivion Bethesda bugs are there. If you're able to manipulate certain things, you're going to be able to do that. If you're going to talk to certain NPCs gliding across the street, that's going to happen. People are going to flip over and be weird. That's going to happen. They're going to have redundant sayings no matter what you have. As a matter of fact, let me share a quick clip here of what I'm talking about. Kind of funny to me, but here you go.
He was here a second. He was here. Where are you? Where are you?
Here a second.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? He was here. He was where he was here. Where are you? He was here. He was here. Where he was here. Where he was here a second ago.
I'd better cut down. Where are you? Oh!
He was here.
I've fought mud crabs more fearsome than you.
He was here a second.
So as you can see there, I thought that was pretty funny. They immediately, where'd he go kind of thing, even though they were clearly tracking me. It's not like they lost sight of me and they're doing their normal pathways or anything like that. So a lot of that sort of stuff, which makes it kind of fun. That makes it a Bethesda game. That's why they're called Bugthesda in a lot of ways. Now, in a lot of bad ways too, it comes with the Bethesda bugs. Now, I don't know if they revamped a little bit of the engine or they tweaked it or whatever the case is. So certain parts of it was very smooth. I didn't have any issues or stuttering with most of the game. However, what I did come across was quite a handful of crashes, right? It crashed, boop, closes it out, accept report, go and do that. That was a problem. And it would happen like 5 to 6 times in a row when you're just playing randomly. What seemed to trigger it for me is when I'm looting an NPC that I've already disposed of, or just going in and out real quick, not like purposely trying to make it quick or crash or anything like that, but I was trying to go into like a box or a chest or again, an NPC of some sort and check the loot and grab it back and forth. Oh wait, what did they have in there? Let me check again. So if you did that real quick back and forth, that seemed to trigger that a lot. Pretty annoying depending on where your autosave was or what your save file was. That can be a pain. So I wasn't a big fan of that. Thought that they would have ironed that sort of thing out by this point in time. So fingers crossed that they, of course, fix that by the time the next Elder Scrolls comes out. That would be fantastic. So no promises there. But that being said, in addition to that, the only real stuttering every once in a while in the open world outside of the gates and stuff, when you fast travel stuff, you know, quick little hiccup there, but nothing like it was a continuous stutter or major dropping to my knowledge that I could see of major frames or anything like that. But I will be 110% upfront and honest with you guys. Towards the very end of the main story, which I did say for the last, that did stutter quite drastically because there's a ton of enemies on the screen coming at you at once. There's a lot of NPCs helping you out at once. And again, I don't think that's hardware specific because it's having those issues on PlayStation, Xbox, and of course PC. But there are, even if you have a monster rig, you can't out powerhouse this. This I think is part of the engine and part of the issue there. but there was quite a bit of hiccups. No real crashes or anything like that, but it definitely was stuttering, and that's where you can definitely see those frames dip, probably down to 20, 15 frames for just a short time. It wasn't like the entire mission was like that, just certain points for like a good 15 seconds. It would like hiccup and stutter a little bit there for you, but it wasn't game breaking, super immersion breaking, because again, it didn't last that long, but it definitely is noticeable as it does happen from time to time. You're like, oh, there's some hiccups there, but you go into any dungeon, you go into any, even the Imperial City and stuff, there's not a lot going on to where it's causing, at least with my playthrough of the PS5 Pro, did not cause any hiccups or stutters or anything like that, or have any issues running that. And again, it's real quick to fire up. You're ready to roll. Hell, Days Gone right now, the remaster, that still has a long load time. Granted, a little more graphically demanding and so on and so forth, but still a far cry again from what we're seeing on the loading portion here. So, but that being said, I think that encapsulates and encompasses everything that we need to go over for the game. So ultimately, should you play it? I think if you love any Elder Scrolls game, if you have any nostalgia factor for Oblivion, definitely check it out. I had a really good time overall. I wouldn't have platinumed it, as you can see here, if I didn't have a good time and I didn't want to do that. Again, certain quests and stuff were a pain for sure. Certain things were a pain, but that's just how Oblivion was, and a lot of games like that back then were, for putting in the effort and looking things up or trying to figure it out. But that being said, I think it's still a great job if you are familiar with this. I don't know if I would jump into this if this is your first Elder Scrolls game, or maybe you should, because you're going to get spoiled by the more fluidness and more better paced Skyrim, of course. But you know, I really think this is a cool game. I think it was fun. I don't regret my time with it whatsoever. And again, I would not have platted it if it wasn't worth my time. So that being said, let's give this a finalized review here. Let's give this a score out of 10. We're going to go ahead. I think this has a lot going for it, a lot of fun and a lot of content. We're going to give this a 7 out of 10. Yes, a 7 out of 10. I think that's solid. Great game. A lot of people having a blast with this, revisiting that nostalgic factor. This does come with the DLC, like the Shivering Isles and such like that, so you got a little bit more for you there. I think the graphics really take it to that next level and make you want to check that out. And again, just unlocking some of those past core memories, I think it's fantastic. So that being said, definitely let me know what you guys think of this remaster. Have you bought it? Have you checked it out via Game Pass? Did you outright purchase it? Have you played through it? Did you enjoy it? What are your thoughts and opinions? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, definitely leave a like, because both of those things do help out the algorithm. If you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing, seeing more reviews, game reviews, other game news, and of course the Salty Batch Files, where we tell the truth much more often as well. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and we will see you next time on the next Xvault Gaming video. And until then, take care.